Ready? Play.
Good morning as it is here in Germany, or good evening as it is in Canberra, Australia. Actually, David, how is the weather, by the way?
Today it was forecast rain. No rain came, but it was like 27 degrees. It was pretty hot today. Luckily, Liam played first, so whilst it was toasty, it probably wasn't quite as hot as it gets sort of 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Do you and Liam get a chance to have a look around Canberra? I mean, to those of you that are not aware, Canberra is the Australian capital, if not its most celebrated city.
Not really. I mean, we certainly find a good coffee shop. We found one, and we had lunch there today after his match. Some good coffee. That's really our main aim, to find a good coffee shop. Obviously, 1 or 2 decent restaurants if you don't order in. I do want to go and see the National War Museum here, because I learned something as a South African that was very, very interesting, that some Australians fought in the Boer War. And there's a whole memorial to the soldiers lost in the Boer War, which is just phenomenal. So I'm quite interested to go and see that if I get the time.
Do you find that these things, whether it be going to, I mean, I'm also thinking about bigger moments in Liam's career, such as whether it be Wimbledon or whether it be the Australian Open a couple of years ago. Do you find that this can help with Liam mentally, for example? Is it a good distraction if you go out and you have dinner, or does he prefer to sort of be with himself and his own thoughts?
No, I think it depends how tough the day has been. If it's been a tough day, then normally Liam will order food in, Deliveroo or whatever, and spend most of the evening chilling. But I'd say probably twice, maybe 3 times a week, we'll go out and have dinner, and that's kind of helps relax and just chat and if you can find it, you can always find a couple of decent restaurants, and certainly in Australia and certain countries, I mean, the eating is really good.
Yeah. All right. Well, since we last spoke, David, which was on New Year's Day, it's been a good sort of 48 hours for Liam. 2 wins, 2 straight set wins. He's now not just qualified for the Canberra Challenger, but he's now into the last 16, I believe. Tell me about those 2 matches.
Well, yeah, yesterday he played an Italian, and the match was, I would say, I mean, he won easy, like 3-2, I think. And whilst the score seemed easy, I was very uncomfortable through the match. I felt that he wasn't timing the ball that great. The opponent was just a little bit erratic and gave away a lot. But I just felt it was actually, the quality of the match wasn't great. And that was a little bit disconcerting for me. I was a little worried about today, because I felt that Pellegrino, kind of gave him the match, and Liam was clearly not comfortable in especially on his forehand side. But we did a little bit of work before the match today, and after the warm-up, and I felt the timing on the forehand clicked, but I was still nervous. And but he started really, really well, timing the ball very, very well. And yeah, I mean, the first set was superb. I'd say a very, very professional performance. He was up a break in the second set, and this is something that I'm not sure everybody understands, but how dangerous tennis matches are. They are never done until they're done. And, a set and a breakup, seemingly cruising, has a chance to go double breakup, doesn't take the chance. And suddenly you can see the, Pissarro getting his mojo back, breaks back. Um, and suddenly, it was pretty nervous times. Luckily, Liam managed to stave off 2 set points at 4-5.
Oh, okay.
And then got it to the tie break. And then in the tie break, he had a horrible call in the first point of the tie break. It was, the guy kind of choked a big forehand slightly wide, but it wasn't called. And I thought, this is trouble, because Liam was a bit upset about it. But he managed to, keep his head and get up on the breaker. And then actually at 5-2 in the breaker, the guy hit a drop shot and Liam picked it up, and Liam actually hit it slightly wide. And, the umpire kind of compensated and didn't overrule a bad call.
Got it.
And so he went to 6-2 on actually a shot that he had missed.
On these 2 calls that sort of went one against Liam, one for him, so to speak, but also his opponent Pissarro. I mean, did they both take the dodgy call, if you like? Did they take it well? Does Liam tend to sort of take those well or not?
No, they didn't take it well at all. Yeah, I think. But some of it is kidology, in terms of like if there's a bad call. And I do say this to players, and Liam's very good at this. You do make a little bit of a fuss about it, because I think that puts pressure on the umpire to really do a good job and maybe a better job, and it can actually work in your favor, because I believe that the failure to overrule when Liam missed was influenced by the pressure Liam had put on the umpire for the missed call that was pretty blatant. So it's that's why I love Hawkeye, because when there's no line judges, there's no argument. It's the same for everybody. I remember in Canada, in Montreal, actually, the court that he played Tommy Paul on, for sure on the one side, the calibration of Hawkeye was wrong on a service line. Okay. And serves that were like a couple of inches out were being called in by Hawkeye. But the great thing is it's for both players exactly the same. It doesn't change its calibration for one player or the other. So, but it's rare for the calibration to be wrong. I know Hawkeye calibration is not 100% perfect, but it doesn't matter, because it's exactly the same for both players. And it has no emotions, no feelings. It doesn't change.
Right. Before the season began, we spoke about 3 weeks ago, just before Christmas, I think it was. You mentioned how Liam's physical state is arguably the best it's ever been going into the season. What about his mental state, if you like? How has he been feeling going into this season?
He's been incredibly upbeat. And I think what, people have to understand is, mental progress is no different from, improving a forehand, a backhand, your physical. It's, you can't just focus on the mental, for a couple of weeks and say, okay, then I've got it. Liam and I have done a lot of mental work over 8 years, and, the same messages have to go in over and over again. But as you climb the rankings, the fundamental understanding of what's being talked about gets deeper and more meaningful the higher the level is. So it just becomes more sophisticated. So the same message can apply to a junior, which is, say, something very simple like, one ball at a time, one match at a time, 1 point at a time. But as you get higher, the ability to actually do that improves with that message going on all the time. And I think it's really important for any young player to understand that, something like my course, Mindset College, if you go through it once, it's going to help. But actually, it's something that should live with you, where you go through it over and over again, and certain parts will stick out of your mind. I need that. And whilst you will improve by taking on these mental tools, to become an expert at it takes a long, long time. And, even today, Liam got a little bit agitated. He was up a set in a break and felt he was losing a bit of rhythm on his serve. And that was, he started to, question himself and started to verbalize some stuff, and I just said to him, confidence, stick with it. You're playing good. You're winning 88% of your first serves.
Okay.
And he went, yeah, but when the game I got broke, I didn't make one. I said, well, there's always one tough game. Now, keep going forward. And I'd looked like 3 years ago, that would not have stopped him in his tracks. This time he was able to kind of process it and go, yeah, calm down. Things are actually okay. And he did calm down and went forward and played, superbly from 4-5 really to the end of the match. And this is, what I've noticed over the last 18 months is he's much better regrouping than he was.
Okay.
And, tennis is all about regrouping. Emotions you cannot get rid of. Everybody feels them. And that's not the problem. Emotions are not the problem. It's after something's happened. It's how you choose to react to it, which is where the discipline comes in and where the tools come in and where the difference is made. I hope that makes sense, by the way.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. Listen, you touched on something, David, about how you two have been together for 8 years. I think there was a period when you weren't together, but altogether 8 years. How easy is it to maintain the message, if you like, or not to sound repetitive over and over again? I mean, I'm thinking about drills as well, but let's focus on the mental side today. I mean, how many times have you probably said something like "stay in the moment, stay in the point"?
I think patience is a very big part of it as a coach. That you got to understand that, just because you say something doesn't mean it's gone in. And even if it has gone in logically, it's not until they've learned it emotionally that it sticks. So the difference between me as a coach, and I've said this to Liam, had I coached him in my early 40s, I would have basically said, you're not stepping up. So bye-bye, come back when you're ready. And, I'm now older, arguably wiser, but certainly more patient. And I do understand that it's not like a player's not trying to implement. It just, in the heat of the emotion and everything like that, they haven't yet got the control to implement the tools that you want them to implement. And slowly but surely over time, that does sink in. And it's a very good question about how do you keep it fresh. I would say one of my big strengths is I read a lot, I listen a lot, and I always try to find new ways, because I think the more experience you have as a coach, it's not that you know more, it's just you have more ways of saying the same thing. And so
Exactly.
I'm always experimenting and trying to find a different way of saying the same thing so it sounds fresh to the player, even though it's the same message they've had for maybe 5 years. We had a situation today, he played the into-out forehand as well as ever. in his career. It was really superb. And he said to me at lunch, he said, yeah, the in-to-out forehand really, really worked for me today. He said, you know, I can't believe it took me so long to really understand what you were saying, because it was actually the you know, two and a bit years ago when he really started to use the in-to-out forehand. It was before he qualified for the French Open, and the in-to-out forehand was the difference. And it was the first time that he really understood it, because he would always go for the open space, the in-to-in forehand. If he had hit one into-out forehand, immediately it'd go into-in. And, you know, the idea to, you know, go 2, maybe 3, 4 times into-out before you go into-in is what keeps people off balance. So, you know, that message I was giving for years, but it took, you know, 4 years to kind of click. And so, yeah, that's why it you know, tennis is an incredibly complex sport, and it takes a long time to learn. Obviously, some learn, you know, faster than others, and the phenoms are a strange breed because they understand it very, very young.
Okay. You mentioned some of the conversations that you had with Liam regarding, you know, 88%, for example. You know, it's coming, it'll be okay. How detailed are these? These are conversations that are going on during today's match, for example.
Yes, yeah. So he comes, you know, to towel off and everything like that. He's like, you know, I can't believe my serve. You know, I can't make one serve. And it's like,
So are you sort of right behind? I'm just trying to think where you're sat. I don't know how it is at the Challenger
I
level.
was on the side.
Okay.
You know, on the side. So he comes to the towel on the side, and there, and then, you know, obviously, you know, I've got Callum, his brother, and I'm asking him for the stats.
Okay.
And so, you know, he comes up, and then I'll go, like, you know, you do realize you're winning 88% of your first serve. You know,
Okay.
it's not a bad situation to be in. You know,
No,
then of
right.
course he vents with, you know, yeah, but this is the game I lost. I never made one. You know, and I was like, well, there's always one tough game in a match, you know, where it doesn't go how you want. You know, come on, straight back on it. You know, and again, you can give that message. I could give that same message to a younger player, and they would not be able to, you know, control their emotions and actually settle down and calm down and play again. They would, you know, still be, you know, worrying about the game that they lost for too long.
Right. Yeah. Don't dwell on it, I think, is the message, if possible. Listen, Luca Nardi is next up in the last 16, I believe it is. So we're skidding through them now. But what do we know about Luca?
Another Italian, and they've got plenty of very good players. Very talented boy. Liam has played him once before. He won fairly comfortably. Funny enough, he warmed up with Luca today. You know, I would say that, you know, every match is very, very dangerous because, you know, everybody is good. He's actually higher ranked than Liam at the moment. But I think that if Liam can put the same level on the court as he did today, it's going to be very difficult for Luca.
Well, fingers crossed it works out, and we speak again in about another 48 hours after another victory or two. David, I just want to say a big thank you for stopping by today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Great, David. And we'll be speaking, no doubt, hopefully after, say, another victory or two in a couple of days. And to everybody else, thank you also for stopping.